We're here. It is time for our first PvP of the day. No Terrans. Get that Terran nonsense out of here. We are only Protoss and Zerg. That is all we got. It's Trap. And he's not a Zerg, but he's another Protoss, so therefore it counts. And also he's using the very, very cool Tall Dream skin. I love how these look. It's Zoun. Exactly, no Terran in here. We don't like Terran around these parts. As a Terran main, I can say that. And it's, you know, it's not bad for me to say. As we do have low ground walls for both players. Actually, we did get a PvP earlier today. Never mind, it's not our first one. We did have, actually, Classic versus Zest. I forgot that. Fairly early on in the day. That was our second series. A very, very good series, though. Very interesting in how it ended up playing out. As we're going to see the probe harass come through here from both these players. This is how PvP ends up going. It's actually going to be a double gateway, though, from Zoun. Trap only going for the singular gate. Interesting. Usually it doesn't really result in much, but there is kind of a interesting symbiosis between how these builds end up matching up and what you exactly need to do in order to be completely safe or to punish your opponent with them. And we'll see how it goes. We should see immediately 2 Stalkers being produced here for Zoun. It's the Zealot and then the Sentry for Trap. And Cybernex Core does get knocked down as well. Should be able to get on into his Nexus fairly quickly. As for Zoun, what's the plan? Well, he's going to be able to get rid of that annoying probe with the 2 Stalkers that are going to pop out fairly shortly. Other than that, it's just kind of be behind his opponent. One of the big things about maps with ramps that lead up into your natural is that you can wall them off. You can afford to go 1 gate because you have the high ground advantage. Really, you're not worrying about being the issue with even ground is, of course, that when you have even ground and you're trying to take a low ground wall, it's really easy for your opponent to set up a pylon, set up shield batteries, and just produce units right outside your base, and your buildings are no longer safe. On a map like Curious Minds, where you have this high ground wall, even if you only go 1 gate, you actually have the high ground advantage. You'll get the first shots off against your opponent's units, and you can defend them because your opponent has to push up that ramp in order to see, unless they have an air unit. And if you're going to see a push out here from Zoun, immediately the shield battery is going to push him away. Says, oh, I don't want to do that. Stargate, though, on the way for our blue Protoss. He's going to be immediately into an Oracle. This was scouted out by Trap. Should have all the proper defenses up in time for when that Oracle comes across the map. And the Nexus for Zoun will be finishing shortly, and as it is, has actually kept up in the worker count pretty admirably. Is only sitting 2 behind with his Nexus now finishing. Keeping in mind that he went for the 2-gate opening, it's not at all that bad a position, especially because now, as the player who opens with the slower Nexus, you're going to have your tech, just a little bit quicker. You have the Stargate, you also have the Twilight Council, and you're not that far delayed, which is, I mean, the ideal situation for Zoun right now. As the shield batteries are finishing up for Trap, knows that timing by heart, and, well, actually has just Stalkers and Sentries there at the natural to push away the Oracle. A full wall to deny the Adepts. Trap playing it safe. What'd you think was going to happen? In what world was anything else going to happen? Blink on the way for both these players, though. Additional gateways going down for Zoun and Trap. Immediately with that Forge, of course. This is kind of what we saw, again, in the classic Zest series. When you go for the faster Nexus, you have the luxury of getting up that Forge just a little bit quicker, as Stasis Ward does get canceled. And despite the 2 attempts that Zoun has made to set up that stasis trap, neither of them working out. Starting to see +1 on the way for trap, and that third nexus for Zoun is quite quick now. I mean, looking at pretty much a timing where he's going to try and catch up in that worker count. He's only 3 behind, but is trying to take a tempo advantage here by getting the faster third. It's a little bit greedy, because if Trap did decide that he wanted to hit a really strong 2-base Blink Stalker timing, then suddenly, you know, Zoun's in a lot of trouble if that is the case. Luckily for him, it's not. Trap is just getting up his third nexus. Brock's facility on the way with the +1. But Zoun is just going to be at a slight disadvantage in a few ways. He's not going to have his robo. His +1 is going to be severely delayed. And this is where we've seen a lot of Protoss just win games, is with this +1 advantage with the robo facility. And even with the slower third base, you're still able to commit on in and pretty much get the win with a smart timing attack. Let's see if that's the case. Great blink forward. Traps the Adept. Another one does make its way on into the main base. Gonna look for a few worker kills here and should be able to find them. Actually does manage to force out a recall, which is pretty worthwhile in the long run. Actually does also manage to get on out into the main base. Ha! Tricky, you thought it was going to try and escape, but no. As Templar Archives on the way for Trap, charge started up with this +1 finishing. Zoun is catching up though. He's been given time. He's been given as much freedom as he wants, and so has had this third base up for a little bit. Is now going to be able to catch up in the upgrades, catch up in the tech. Both these players giving a lot of respect to each other. Hallucinations. Gonna get sniped away, and really just looking for what the big decision is for either of these players. What are you going to do? Trap right now is working on that +2 ground weapons. Has 4 additional gateways that are going to be completing. There's a chance that you start to look for a timing attack as Trap here. But your 4th base is also coming down at the same time as your opponents. So you're not feeling extremely pressed to really do anything. Does mean that we're in a bit of an awkward stalemate here for both these players. As of course, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Both Zoun and Trap, you're trying to qualify. You really don't want to play in the North American qualifier if you don't have to. But you know the other player is good. You have to respect the other player. You're, you know, in your own respective times, have been the top Protosses in Korea. I think Zoun for a little while was like he was going to be the best in the world, the best Protoss in the world. And Trap, of course, has always been just so consistent. Here we go, trades on the Stalker snipes, and great stage sword though. He's going to trap 4 of those Stalkers. Trap just continuing to try and find damage. Has to pull back, warping in more Zealots. Has the +2 now, and this is the big attack that Trap is looking for. Is the +2 great trigger on the Stasis Ward. Should immediately try and blink back the Stalkers. There we go, manages to save all of them. Actually going to try and collapse onto Zoun's army if he steps just a little bit too far forward. He's trying to split this position between the 4th and the 3rd, and now as these Zealots collapse on in, they're just onto all of the Archons, and this surface area for Trap is just so good. Needs to get his own Zealots out though, but he has found some amazing trades so far. The Immortals, I mean not the Immortals, the Archons continuing to fire away, and Trap with the additional attack upgrade is absolutely crushing this fight. And you just saw how quickly those Zealots melted against the Archons. The Stalker's trying to push forward. The Archons don't even go down. They should eventually fall here. Oh, the pickups! Trap, absolutely insane. Workman's going to come through, and now the 4th base has been effectively sectioned off. A few Zealots are going to run up there. They're just going to knock it down. As here we go, Trap committing on in. Zealots, Stalkers blinking forward. The Archons just finding as much value as they can at the back. I mean, they don't have any shields. Still managing to get off a few more shots. The positioning from Trap has been good. Are you pushing too far forward? No! He has gotten just enough damage. So many probes are going to start to go down. More Zealots being warped in. Zoun is below 100 supply. And that should be the game as more probes are going to go down. The Warp Prism is going to manage to just get away. That means that this game is effectively over. GG! Trap going to take game number 1. All right. Here we are. Game number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, bottom left-hand corner from Alpha X is Zoun. And in top right, just made the timing attack work. It is Trap. And I'll continue with the discussion of the best Protoss, because it really is pretty... It's pretty close. You know, in EU, of course, you have Showtime Max Packs. That's top 2. I think Max Packs, in general, I would say... I would rate a little bit higher than Showtime. In Korea, it's very hard. Because, of course, I mean, Zest is like the most hot and cold player you can ever have. So he'll win a super tournament, and then he'll drop out of qualifiers to, you know, players that he should absolutely be beating 100% of the time. Consistency-wise, I think, you know, you have Trap and Zoun are very consistent. Creator has been on a rise, but I don't think he hasn't really shown enough to be considered in that conversation. And then right now, I think probably one of the most well-rounded is Hero. I think if you really want to have the conversation between best Protoss in Korea, it'd probably be between Trap or Hero. Right now, both of them doing great in GSL. Yeah, right now both of them doing really good in GSL. And Zoun, it's an interesting thing with Zoun, because for a while he was looking so good. It was looking like he might just be the best Protoss in Korea, like a year or two ago. It felt like he had a very unique way of approaching the game, and really was doing well. And as other Protoss have started to catch back up, you know, as you know, Classic and Hero have come back, people have started to, I think, get kind of caught up to him, and then started to surpass him a little bit. But he's still, of course, extremely good. I think you can't discredit that. As we have the Stalkers pop up, the immediate cancel onto the pylons. And we see the double gateway from both these players. Interestingly enough, I believe we are going to be seeing... I'm trying to see if there's only 2 people mining gas right now for Trap. Because we are seeing the Stargate first out of Zoun. Trap just does have a faster Nexus, so I think he actually pulled off gas a little bit to get that faster Nexus. And again, the difference is it's not really that noticeable until you start to get towards your Forge upgrades. You know, once you get into Forge and getting your +1 up, that's when you really start to notice the player that has, you know, kind of gotten the faster Nexus, has a little bit more money to work with because of that. Spot council's on the way for both players. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted there. We are seeing the Adepts get trapped here. The shield battery does pop up in time to save those sentries from getting 2-shot. As the Oracle makes its way in, doesn't even find that much damage, and that really does hurt quite a bit. And already Trap having a pretty darn good start to this game. You get the earlier Nexus, you stop any harassment damage from coming down from your opponent, and now Zoun working on Blink. Just going to be trying to kind of find his way back into this game. Zoun snags the probe. Revelation gets on out. And so far, just seeing this kind of be a completely standard game up at this point. Oracle is doing a good job of keeping tabs on Trap's army, though, and that's definitely one of the most important parts of the job of the Oracle is scout and kind of look and see where your opponent is going, as that's a Dark Shrine on the way for Zoun. Went behind Dark Shrine, and it is true. As see how much damage this does end up getting done. I can't imagine as much. You already have the robotics facility on the way for Trap. Third base going down for both players. A little bit faster again for Trap, who's just ahead on his timings right now. And that hurts because Zoun, again, you went for, you know, the slower natural base. I do not know. It's one of those situations where it's not that big of a difference, really. Like right now, you look at it and you say, well, it's only 6 supply that Zoun is down. But then you have to look at everything else. There's already a Forge on the way for Trap. His gateways, I'm sure the gateways are timed pretty much the same, but Trap just has these slight edges in almost everything, where his charge is going to be done a little bit sooner. His +1 is going to be started a little bit sooner. There are TTs on the way, though, and this is where we can start to get a little bit messy here for Trap if he is not ready. These Dark Templars are going to try and throw a wrench in the plans, and for Zoun, this is path to victory, but oh no, the Observer scouts it out. That's, so massive as the Trap is not able to come through with the Stalker, but you're still going to get the kill onto the first DT. Second one is just going to back up, and oh, that hurts. Zoun, the anti-timing, wanted to sneak them in, but was just not able to. Twilight Council on the way for Trap is going to be getting into those Archons. And for Zoun, it's additional gateways going up to 4. And right now, again, Trap just sitting comfortably with a slight lead. Yep, Scout the Stalker moving out. Zoun tries to blink forward. Not going to be able to find... Well, we'll find the kill on one in depth. Not going to be able to get the second. And now Archon's in production. 6 gateways on the way for Trap. He's going to start to look for a bit of aggression. Trap is scouting out where Zoun's army is. As I apologize, I'm getting distracted by the conversation in chat about players coming back. It's very interesting. I'll get to it after after the game, but here we go. Zoun trying to push a little bit, some nice blink backs there. That was so cool. The 4th base going down for Zoun. Trying to push this, but can't really find an opening. +2 on the way for Trap. He's also working on Immortal production. More DTs in production, of course, going to be used to add on this Archon's. Zoun still trying to find an angle. And this game of posturing is finally going to come up front, as here we go, Archon's not in the front, it's the Immortals, and that's absolutely not what you want. Shield battery overcharge, going to be able to kill up all the shields on these units. You need those Archons at the front right now if you are Zoun. And if you are Trap especially. Your Immortals, they're so useful as... Woo! Warp Prism almost goes down. That would have been a massive snipe for our blue Protoss. But here we go, Trap from 2 angles. Has units on both sides. The Archons, though, are not in the front. Finally the snipe onto the Warp Prism. But you're jumping forward into the Archons. We're absolutely shredding through these units. +2 isn't done quite yet. It's +1 versus +1. But still feels like Trap with its angle is going to be able to crush through. More Zealots coming in to support. The blink forward from Trap leaves the Zealots onto the Archon and is going to try and get rid of the rest of it with his Stalkers. Still does not have the upgrade advantage. The Immortal staying alive. The Zealots just tanking up so much damage for Zoun. But Trap ends up with a supply lead. He's going to have his +2 done beforehand. Zoun continue to try and actually press here with Blink Stalkers. Just have to be careful. We'll just blink away. And the 4th base going down for Trap. We'll try and catch up with that of his opponent, but mind you, Zoun right now, with this proxy gateway, is continuing to apply pressure, has his 4th base up and mining. And that's how he's able to continue to get these Warpins and have this much money for this attack. As, oh no! Immortal gets caught with a force field. Again, the Archon's not in the front. They're not able to break these force fields. They're not able to tank as much as you would like. And of course, you don't need them in the front versus the Stalkers, but as soon as the fight comes to a front, that's where you see Zoun positioning his Archons with his Zealots, making sure that they are in front of them, but the Stalkers are separated. This Trap right now is just fighting to hold on. Hold position micro from both these players is... Zealots into the 4th base did manage to clear out the worker line. Warp Prism is going to try and just duck and dive its way out of that sticky situation. It was at 4 HP. So here we go. Trap actually has an angle here. Zoun definitely doesn't want to fight this. We'll try and set up his own concave, though. And Trap is fighting right on into it. The Archons at the back, though, are going to get so much value onto the Zealots of Zoun. As Zealots from behind for the blue Protoss, able to clean up a lot of the Stalkers, but now it is just Archons and Immortals left for Trap, and that is plenty for him to be able to push back his opponent's army. Another blink forward. Warp Prism is sniped, but all the units are dropped out in time. As Trap pushing towards the gateway. He's going to try and see if he can break this position. Has 2 Immortals with this. Has 3 Archons. It might just be enough. He's going to be able to knock down the gateway. Zoun is now down 30 supply. Going to try and find a counterattack, but here we go. Zealots are already here. Just going to blink forward, try and find his way out. Doesn't want to lose those units. Keep as many alive as possible. As it's +2 versus +2. Trap has finally got himself a worker lead with his 4th base. That blink forward, not the best. Only is going to lose 1 Stalker, though. Oh, that recall actually is a bit weird, but... does manage to get out most of the Stalkers. Zoun now trying to get back to a decent army size, warping a few Dark Templars for an Archon. But Trap is closing in with a massive army. 73 army supply to 52. Warp Prism has been remade for the 3rd time. And now +3 is also on the way for Trap. 40 supply lead. Zoun not looking pretty as here we go. Diving on in. Immediately the snipe onto the shield battery. That's the overcharge gone, as well as the Archons are just absolutely shredding through everything. And Zoun, once again, the Archons are going to zap him into oblivion. As GG is called. Trap gets the 2-0 and he's moving on.